turns. The leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for 3.
Next it is in the center of the racetrack. The Admiral Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem is pulling away. He's got another gear. Yeah, that's West Lake having the Derby. Wheel away takes command. Lion Heart is all heart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here's the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle Slow in 1970.
Just 1 week until the Kentucky Oaks, 8 days until the Run for the Roses. Contenders for both races continue to trickle into Churchill Downs. Time for the Derby Workout Show presented by TwinSpires.com. Sloppy main track, but it is drying out. Temperature in the upper 40s, and it's a bit windy here on a Friday morning. Let's take a look at the headlines. We'll start with Wynn's arrival on Thursday. He is scheduled to breeze on Sunday for trainer Michael Trombetta. Julian Pimentel will have his first ever Kentucky Derby mount. Out for a spin was in the mud on Thursday for trainer Dallas Stewart. Irad Ortiz Jr. will be the pilot in the Kentucky Oaks. And finally, Omaha Beach scheduled to work out today. Those plans are still in a little bit of flux. We'll have more information as the show progresses here on the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show. Joe Christovic alongside James Scully, and Omaha Beach, likely Kentucky Derby favorite, scheduled to work today. Sloppy track drying out. Those plans are in flux. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely a wet track for the second day in a row, Joe. Good morning to you. We'll wait and see whether they go ahead with it today or wait for a expected fast track tomorrow. Omaha Beach has been here since he won the Arkansas Derby on April 13th, and he's made a good impression in the morning just galloping around the track. We're excited to see that first move by him.
He has cover over his head in the viewing station by the Lucas Gap. And he also has a special guest, third member of our team, Ed DeRosa. Ed, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Yeah, I have cover over my head, unfortunately not cover on my head, and I am joined by Mark Cassie. He and I were joking about how the wind feels on our bald heads, but more importantly, good horses keep us warm, Mark. You have a good one in War of Will. Take us through disappointment after the Louisiana Derby to, okay, he's fine, okay, we might make the Derby, okay, we're going to the Kentucky Derby.
Well, I've been doing this for a while, so nothing's ever easy. It was going too easy. I should have known something was up. But you know what? He's doing extremely well. We're confident, and now hopefully we don't get blown away here by this weather.
Watching that race live, beaten favorite, did you know something was wrong with the Trouble Trip, or did you think something may have been wrong with the horse?
Oh, I knew something happened right out of the gate, 4 or 5 strides. I was... honestly, after that happened, I wasn't even worried about winning the race. I was just hoping that he was okay. We were lucky. So I took it pretty good.
All right. Yeah, and we did have footage of him galloping on the track. So obviously showing you he's healthy, pointing to the Kentucky Derby. What have you seen in the last couple weeks that gives you confidence he's ready for this test?
Well, we've tested him pretty good. His work over out of the gate at Keeneland, 5/8. He galloped out 7/8 and 25 and 3, which that's what I was looking for. 3 weeks out, the closest way to simulate a race is to work out of the gate, and that's why we did it. And I'm not really worried about his fitness. He's good. He's happy. And now hopefully a good post position and a good trip.
You mentioned his fitness. Honestly, one concern I've had is an analysis of this race is no real race in 11 weeks. But obviously you've had 6 weeks to work with him too. Any concern for you there?
No, not really. He's such an easy horse to train. He does whatever. If he was hard and he, didn't put a lot into his training, you would worry about it. But I'm not worried about it at all. Now it's just where does he rank? Is he good enough? That's more of the concern. I'm not concerned about his level of fitness. And I've said all along, I think he's a very good horse. He loves Churchill Downs, and I think him and Omaha Beach have 2 things in common. They have the ability to put if you hit the gas pedal, they can respond quickly, and that's important in a big field. Some of these other horses, it takes a while for them to get into stride, so they need more of a perfect trip. I was impressed with Omaha Beach when he broke a little slow in the Arkansas Derby, and Mike had to kind of ask him to go, and zoom, he went. And so I think both those horses, both the War Fronts, have that advantage over some of the horses. So hopefully we'll get a good trip. We're not going to be far off the pace, and see what happens.
All right. Speaking of Oaklawn, you did have a filly down there perform well in Chocolate Kisses. She's here in the Oaks. Ashland didn't go your way. Tough weekend for that type of running style, so probably not as disappointed, and figures to shape up a lot better here on May 3rd.
Well, I had to make a decision, and that was, do we play the way she had won previously at Oaklawn, or did we go ahead and get her into the race a little bit more, because it was impossible to win at Keeneland. I was so disappointed. It was a tough weekend because the track played so biased. I chose to have Tyler put her into the race a little bit more early, and I think it was her demise. So we're going to sit back, hope they run really fast, and we're going to go back to what I guess, what do you say? You dance with the one who brought you. So that's what we're going to do, and if it works out, it'll be good, and if it doesn't, we'll live to fight another day.
Absolutely. What's the plan for these two this weekend, final works leading up to the big races?
Well, I had planned on breezing Chocolate Kisses this morning early, but the weather's just been so terrible. It's kind of been that's the way it's been. We've missed, the track has been kind of tough even at Keeneland, and so we're going to breeze tomorrow. We're going to breeze War of Will tomorrow. We're going to breeze her tomorrow, and we'll be ready.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being ready for my questions and braving the elements out here, Mark. Best of luck next week.
I'm going to attempt to make it to the barn without getting blown away right now. But
I've already lost my coffee, so good luck with that. Joe and James, back to you.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Mark. Mark's so gracious coming up and doing that interview. Good for the game. Very well spoken, obviously. And as we take a look at the Kentucky Derby top 20, James, I want to talk about War of Will, because he won the Lecomte, he won the Risen Star, and then he had that trouble coming out of the starting gate in the Louisiana Derby. After seeing him train, I've moved him back up my list because I wasn't even sure he was going to make the race, let alone come into it the right way. So Mark Cassie's confident, I'm confident.
Yes, and he trained yesterday morning on a wet track. We know he likes a wet track here at Churchill. He broke his maiden over a sloppy track when he made his first start in November. And he did take a funny step, a couple jumps out of the starting gate, Louisiana Derby. All the x-rays came back clean. They equated it to like maybe a slightly sprained ankle or something to that just healed up quickly. And like Cassie said, he's doing extremely well in the mornings, and he could get that forward pressing trip, especially if he draws a good post in the Kentucky Derby.
3 horses on the outside looking in currently, awaiting, at least as far as they hope, a defection or 2 or maybe even 3. Likely favorite for the Kentucky Derby, at least we think so, Omaha Beach, scheduled to have a work this morning. We are still awaiting word whether or not that's going to happen during the designated time at 7:30 to 7:45. Could happen later in the morning. Kevin Kirstein reporting a sloppy track may be good for the training session, and then maybe even a little bit faster a little bit later on, so he could wait, or he could wait for the weekend. He's been galloping great all week long.
He's been galloping great, and the Churchill Downs main track does dry out fast. With Omaha Beach, he's a big, but you can just see him on this video. He's got a big backside, Joe, big long stride. Richard Mandela, the trainer's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's 0 for 6 in the Derby. We haven't seen him participate in the Derby since 2004, which is kind of remarkable, but he's had some amazing Breeders' Cup days. He's had an amazing career, and he has been quietly and kind of a little bit coy in his confidence level with Omaha Beach, which is a little bit something different for him.
Yeah, not only Mandela, but they've interviewed the exercise rider and others, and yeah, it's just like a quiet confidence. They know they have a good horse, a big chance in the Kentucky Derby.
And he gets the riding services of Mike Smith, who could have rode Roadster for Bob Baffert. He won a Triple Crown with Bob last year with Justify. Opts to ride Omaha Beach, which tells you a little bit of something about how much Mike thinks of Omaha Beach. He's ridden some of the best in recent years. Justify, Arrogate, Songbird, just to name a few. 2 for 24 in the Derby, one with a huge long shot, one with a favorite.
One with a huge long shot, but last year with Justify, he orchestrated the Triple Crown, became the 13th Triple Crown winner. And Mike Smith, one of the top jocks in the game, based in Southern California. He's really good at being on a horse that has good tactical speed.
Getting better with age, like a fine wine. It's very cliche. But Big Money Mike Smith has kind of been that way. He's the most sought-after rider in situations like this. And speaking of older riders, what about John Court? He's going to become the oldest rider to ever participate in the Kentucky Derby. He's going to pilot Long Range Toddy, seen schooling at the gate yesterday.
Yeah, but John Court took over the mount on Long Range Toddy and won the Rebel Stakes aboard him. I like the way he closed that day in the stretch. Didn't run well last time, but he did need the points, and he's eligible to bounce back in the Kentucky Derby if it's a fast track.
Yeah, ran great on the fast track in the Rebel, and a very consistent horse leading up to that. Did not run well last time out in the Arkansas Derby on the sloppy racetrack behind Omaha Beach and Improbable. Long Range Toddy, a little bit of a wild card, but maybe a sneaky live long shot in this year's run for the Roses. Trainer Steve Asmussen, 0 for 19, Hall of Famer, one of the 3 Hall of Famers in this year's Derby, awaiting their first Kentucky Derby win. And I segue to Bill Mott, who is the other one of those trainers. Tacitus is one of 2 horses that he has. And James, you and I, Ed, Scott Shapiro, everybody who's been watching this horse train the last week has been very impressed. He just kind of skips over the ground.
Very impressed. He's looked really good yesterday morning. Got a chance to see him on the backside. Joe, no surprise to see him liking a wet surface. He's by leading sire Tapit. They love a wet track. And, definitely a big, long, rangy type colt that's, still growing. It'll only be his 5th career start in the Kentucky Derby, so he looks very talented.
Bill Mott, probably most famous for training Cigar, but he has won more than 150 Group or Grade 1 races in his career. Picked up his 6th Breeders' Cup win in 2018. Excuse me, that's Judmont Farms. Bill Mott, with Cigar, of course, 0 for 6 in the Derby. And Hoffberg was a hype horse last year. James, he finished 7th, kind of a run along 7th. But when you look at this list, you don't say to yourself, man, I'm surprised he didn't win the Derby with one of those horses.
Not at all. Hoffberg only had a maiden win to his credit coming in. He had run 2nd in the Florida Derby, but he was 27-1. Several of these horses on here, like Taylor Special and Favorite Trick, wound up running at 6 furlong races. I don't think Bill Mott, one of the best trainers in the game, but I don't think he's had a Kentucky Derby horse anywhere with the same kind of qualifications or chances of Tacitus.
Now, one trainer that has won the Kentucky Derby, it was 2013 with Orb Shug McGahee. And Code of Honor just arrived recently, and he is in the same stall as Orb, hoping the connections are that Lightning can strike twice.
Yes, and Code of Honor, he comes off at 3rd in the Florida Derby, but he didn't have to win that race. He picked up 50 points for winning the Fountain of Youth 2 back. I love the turn of foot he showed in that race on the far turn. He accelerated into contention, and we know a lot of times the Derby's won on the far turn, so he's got that turn of foot that could be dangerous.
Shug McGahee, a trainer that certainly knows how to develop a racehorse. He takes his time. Code of Honor was a good 2-year-old, but he's got him in the right place right now to make an impact on the Kentucky Derby. Here's what he had to say about Code of Honor.
It looks like he's fine. He settled in good. He got off the van, went over there and grazed for a little while, and galloped this morning and seemed to handle everything. The track was wet, but he got over it well, and if everything goes right, I'll gallop him here for the next few days and probably work him, just a half mile on Sunday, maybe Monday, but probably Sunday. He's a late May foal, so, he's in the developing stage still. And I thought to myself, I said, I think this horse needs a little bit of a jump start. I'm going to get him out of Florida and get him to Keeneland. Kentucky spring's always supposed to be a good time for horses, so that's what I did. We brought him to Keeneland, and I really think with the colder weather and the just spring in Kentucky, he's really thrived and done well. And I've been really pleased with his development, really over the last month, more than over the winter.
Chuck McGahee with some great insights into Code of Honor there, and we have been told that Omaha Beach is not going to work during the designated training period this morning, awaiting word on when he will work. It will be sometime this weekend. Still plenty of time to get him on the right track for the Kentucky Derby. A lot of these horses are going to work this weekend.
Right, here in the next couple of days, he'll be fast and furious, Joe.
Brian Hernandez Jr., one of the best riders that is based locally here at Churchill Downs. Don't forget, opening night is tomorrow. I'm sure Brian's on a lot of live mounts. Restless rider, Kentucky Oaks, hoping to get in with Signalman in the Derby. Here's Ed with Brian. Ed?
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, alongside Brian Hernandez, earlier joined by a Derby and Oaks trainer. Brian hoping to have a Derby mount and already is in the Oaks. Brian playing the waiting game with Signalman. What's that like on the nerves?
Yeah, he's 22 on the list right now, and we're just kind of waiting to see if he gets in. Hopefully he's more than deserving to be in the Derby field, so hopefully he gets his chance to go ahead and show it.
Yeah, Kenny McPeak, very bullish on social media, talking about wanting to get Signalman in. Sounds like the 4 weeks since the Bluegrass have gone very well for him.
Yeah, I mean, for a horse to be third in the Breeders' Cup last year and then come back and he was third in the Bluegrass, and he won the Jockey Club here at Churchill, so he's more than deserving to get in. It's just the way the points fell this year. He's on the outside looking in, but hopefully we can sneak in at some point.
Yeah, and we have video of Signalman on the track, looking calm and poised out there. Anything you'd like to have back from this year, or was he just not up to the competition those days? Trouble? Where do you think the extra points may have been able to come from this year?
No, it was just kind of the way it all fell. We did 2 preps coming into the Derby with the Fountain of Youth, and then he kind of needed that race, and we came back into the Bluegrass, and he's a nose away from being in. If he gets his nose in front of win, he's definitely in. And it's just, in every other year since the point system's been implemented, 38 points would get you in. It was just the way it fell this year that we were unfortunate that right now we're on the outside looking in.
Yeah, a lot of points spread around for sure. Brian, this would be your third Kentucky Derby mount if in. What experience from the first 2 mount, Tom Reddy and McCracken, will you be thinking about on May 4th? Like, okay, I said I wanted to remember to do this or do that. I'm going to try to do it.
It's just like any other race, really. If you go out there and you know your horses, that because we've seen them all year long and run against them all year long. You just go out there and try to give your horse the cleanest trip possible. You don't want to give him any excuses you don't want to be the reason for him not running his best race. So you just got to go out there and give the horse the best, cleanest trip you can.
Well, among the competition, Signalman has had is his stablemate, Restless Rider, who you'll be riding in the Oaks, and they actually work together. What has she shown you in the morning, what Kenny talked about since the Ashland?
We're excited of her. She seems like the Ashland did her a world of good. She's only had that one race this year, and she had a long campaign last year. So Kenny came up with a great game plan to get the one race in the Ashland, and she ran a great race for not running since November. To come up and just get beat ahead like she did, you have to be proud of her. So we got to go into the Oaks with a lot of confidence. The 3-year-old fillies, we've all kind of taken our turns beating each other. Bellafina will be the favorite, but we beat her in the Breeders' Cup here last year, and Jaywalk's the reigning 2-year-old champion, and we beat her last time in the Ashland. So.
Yeah, a lot of head-to-head certainly augurs well for what she's done. And she had a race even before the Breeders' Cup Juvenile here in the summer at Churchill. Overcame a lot of trouble, was clearly much the best. That was super impressive. And in the Ashland, she showed maybe she's rounding back to that.
Yeah, she seems it. She seems to like this track here at Churchill. She's had 4 races on it, 2 wins and 2 seconds. So you have to go into the Oaks with a lot of confidence, thinking she's one of the top fillies right now.
And speaking of experience over the track, you certainly have experience here at Churchill Downs as one of the leading riders. The meet starts Saturday with night racing, of course, leads into Derby week. What's it like to be one of the top jockeys at one of the world's best racetracks?
It's a lot of fun. My family and we've made Louisville our home now, and to be able to get up and come out to Churchill Downs and be successful as I have, it's a lot of fun. And you have to be very appreciative to all the guys that give us chances. And Frank, my agent, he does a good job of just making sure we have live horses and keeping good connections with the people we ride for.
All right, well, we're appreciative of you joining us today, Brian, and wish you the best of luck in the Oaks and Derby.
Thanks, Ed.
Best of luck getting in the Derby at this point, but certainly in the Oaks with Restless Rider. Thank you, Brian. Back to you, Joe and James.
Well, thanks, Ed. And that ride in the Kentucky Jockey Club by Brian Hernandez on Signalman was absolutely fantastic. I'm very curious, and I haven't seen any news yet whether or not Kenny McPeak is going to put blinkers on Restless Rider for the Oaks, because you know what? To me, she's hung a little bit in her last couple of starts.
Yeah, she's finished second, I think, second or third in her last two starts. And Restless Rider, three starts, her last two at Churchill and then in Ashland this year. Restless Rider, you could see on that video, is a much smaller filly than Signalman is.
Signalman destroyed her in that workout.
Yeah, and he destroyed her, but she's going to probably be the second choice in the Oaks. She has a much better chance if she gets in. The trouble with Signalman to me is that in that Kentucky Jockey Club he won, he was able to sit up close to the pace. I'm a little worried about his run style. If he does get in the Kentucky Derby, I think he'll be pretty far back early.
Hey, man, no matter what happens, he's a $32,000 buy by General Quarters, who's earned over $500,000, far exceeding expectations of his sale price. Win. One of those horses, we talked about it earlier, that has been trickling in here to Churchill Downs as we continue to get closer and closer to the Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. And hopefully we'll see him on the racetrack here today. This is a horse, James, that I really like.
Yes, Win will be making his third start at a route in the Kentucky Derby. He ran third in the Tampa Bay Derby, second in the Bluegrass, and he had a trouble trip in the Bluegrass. So definitely can see the progression for him. Michael Trombetta Jr. is a trainer, very well-liked trainer, hasn't had much experience in Triple Crown races, but he has a promising colt on his hand, and he'll be rolling late in the Kentucky Derby.
Sweet Northern Saint was actually the favorite for Trombetta a few years ago. I believe finished 7th that particular year, his first start in the Derby since. Speaking of first starts in the Derby, Brendan Walsh will be making his first appearance in the race, and he's got a horse that took an unconventional route to the first Saturday in May, James. Every horse has a different route, West Coast, East Coast, Midwest, but this one went overseas to get the qualifying points.
He did. Pluska Parfait became the first U.S.-based horse to win the UAE Derby. He has some connections that are from overseas. That's what they said they were always planning to run there. And definitely, I think he just got a little bit sour down at the fairgrounds, had a trouble trip his first race, didn't run a step in the Risen Star, has turned things around in that UAE Derby, and he was based at Churchill last year, ran second in his first stakes race. He has shown an affinity for the track.
I really think the addition of blinkers helped him in the UAE Derby. And for more insight on Pluske Parfait, here's his trainer, Brendan Walsh.
It's starting to heat up now. It's we're coming down to the final few days, so it's very exciting. It's great to be a part of it, and we're trying to enjoy it as best we can. We probably won't know until the day of the race, but since he's come back, he's been doing great. I think this year too, they left him out there for about 8 days after he ran, so at least he was able to get over the race before he got on the plane. I'm hoping now with the seasoning and the experience and everything that we've got hopefully he's the complete article now, and he's been in every scenario now that any horse could possibly be in, so it won't be seasoning and experience won't be something he'll be lacking.
Pluska Parfait, another one of those wild card horses that could make an impact at a price in this year's Kentucky Derby. Who do you like in the Derby and Oaks? Do you have any questions? You're joining us from all over the country and all over the world, and you can ask James, myself, and Ed questions via social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the Kentucky Derby website, etc., etc. We're going to get to some social media questions a little bit later on in the show. The exclusive training time for the Derby and Oaks horses coming up at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. That's just moments away. As we head to a break, let's take a look at Kentucky Oaks contender out for a spin, who was out for a spin yesterday here under the Twin Spires. We'll be right back.
With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today. With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today.
Ryan Hernandez, Mark Cassie, Ed DeRosa looking a little chilly on the backstretch, but it's not that bad. Main track is now being rated good temperature. That might be a little ambitious. I'm thinking a little bit closer to 50 degrees. We've got some wind. Maybe the wind chill is a little bit chillier. But as you can see, the main track drying out nicely as we head into the workout time for the Oaks and Derby contenders here under the Twin Spires. Let's take a look at the current Oaks leaderboard. 20 horses, James, in the Kentucky Derby, 14 in the Oaks. We do have a couple on the outside looking in. Bellafina, she's going to be arriving soon from Southern California. Looking very forward to getting her on the grounds and getting a look at her training over the course of the next few days.
Bellafina, 3 for 3 this year, multiple Grade 1 winner. She could be odds on. In the Derby, I don't think any of the AEs can make a serious factor, but in the Oaks, Dunbar Road will be a contender if she gets into the field for Chad Brown.
Yeah, you caught up with Chad Brown yesterday on the show, and he seems very bullish. We're not going for a consolation prize. He said he wants to run Dunbar Road in the Oaks. Oaks contender out for a spin was out for a spin yesterday, as you can see, working in company here, James. And, Dallas Stewart has her on the schedule that he wants. She is certainly on the improve. Took her a little bit of time to break her maiden, but she broke through last time out.
Yeah, and a good-looking move. Didn't go too fast in this, but I like the gallop out, the way she galloped out ahead of her workmate here going into the backstretch. Dallas, wire-to-wire winner in the Ashland will probably be looking to revert a little bit of change in tactics, sit just off the speed in the Kentucky Oaks.
We mentioned the likely favorite for the Kentucky Oaks is Bellafina. She's got the best resume, but she was beaten on this racetrack in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She's done some really nice work since then, though, James.
She has, and she's we can see right here in the Santa Anita Oaks. I thought this was her best performance of the year, Joe. Just blew by the competition in a hand ride. Really a big, good-looking horse, Bellafina is. And she also has tactical speed, so she's not going to be too far back. She's going to sit track right behind an expected hot pace in there and look to take over on the far turn of the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, she wins that race for fun. I mean, is she going to take a step backward? Is that race good enough to win the Oaks? Who's going to step up? That's the big question. But Bellafina, no doubt, a little bit of a doubt who might be the favorite in the Derby. That's a wide open race. There's no doubt who the favorite is in the Kentucky Oaks. James, we're going to take a couple social media questions as the horses are getting prepared to step out onto the racetrack for the exclusive training period at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And let's take a question here from Gigi on Facebook. If you had a Derby horse, who would you pick to ride and why?
Well, that's a good question, Gigi. I mean, one thing I'm going to say is guys like Mike Smith and John Velasquez are both two-time winners of the race. I would start right there, Gigi.
Interesting. I'm going to take Jose Ortiz just because I think he's the best jockey in the country right now. I think he makes a difference. Him and his brother Irad, they're both in their mid-20s, 26, 27 years old. We know they have Kentucky Derbies in their future. You would think both of them do. It's just a matter of time. But, I just think Jose, Irad, they're both great. I give the slight edge to Jose. I think he's the best rider going right now. And I think poise is the big thing with him despite his age.
Yeah, and you can't go wrong choosing either of the Ortiz brothers. His brother Irad was the leading jockey of the Breeders' Cup, either top jockey or second to Joel Rosario for the Shoemaker Award. So they both have won a lot of stake races here at Churchill Downs.
Here's a really good question from Martha on Twitter. She says, if I have $20 to bet on the Derby, what kind of bet should I make? Great question, because there's a lot of different options. Win, play, show, exacta, trifecta, super. So many different bets that you can make. But with $20, James, how would you approach it?
I'd approach it like betting half of it. Either if you want to just bet to win, I'd bet 10 to win. If you want to bet it to win in place, you could bet it. Or even go like $4 to win, $4 to place, $2 to show, something like that. And then the other half of it, Joe, I'd bet in exactas. and or trifectas. There's such great value in a 20-horse field in that, and it's always fun to take a chance at the big payoffs in the Kentucky Derby.
I always tell people this when they ask me this question, and I get it a lot. What's your goal? You trying to turn your 20 into 40? You trying to turn your 20 into 100? You're trying to turn your 20 into 1,000? Those are the different kind of bets you can make. It's risk versus reward when you're playing a race like the Kentucky Derby. As you see, Omaha Beach, as he is just awaiting his chance here at Churchill Downs. And you can't all come here to Louisville for the Kentucky Derby. You should do it at least once in your lifetime. It's a memory that you'll never forget. It's just an unbelievable experience, both the races and socially. But if you can't make it here and you're throwing a party, you're a fan, a party host, a horse player, even a memorabilia collector, you can get the official Kentucky Derby 145 souvenir program shipped to your doorstep in time for Kentucky Derby Day. KentuckyDerbyParty.com to order. Horses are awaiting their opportunity to step out onto the racetrack, and they'll do so right after this.
With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today.
Every time I come to the track, safety is my #1 concern. Ahead of every big race, I always take great care to prepare myself and my horse for a safe trip around the track. So know your limits, and if you do decide to drink, make sure you designate a driver to get you home safely. Never miss a moment.
With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby, place legal wagers, and watch live horse racing on any device. New players download now to start your $100 sign-up bonus. Sign up, play, and win today.
We are back having a workout show, and we're anxiously awaiting game winner and roadster, but a horse that we've gotten a chance to see quite a bit over the course of the last few days is the third Bob Baffert trainee, Improbable, and he's on the racetrack now, James.
He's on the racetrack, looks great out there. The more I see him, the more I like him, Joe. I think he definitely has the more tactical speed than the other two horses from the Baffert barn, and I think he's got a chance to run well.
Taking a good look at Improbable on the racetrack. Put blinkers on for the Arkansas Derby. We've talked about that. That didn't go so well. He takes the blinkers off. You know, it went fine. I mean, he ran second, and he ran a huge race, but he was very unsettled in the starting gate. Bob said he doesn't need the blinkers, takes them back off. So, again, how a horse like this is going to handle 170,000 people, the walk over the paddock, the post parade, the roar of the crowd. He's one I'm just a little bit concerned about based on the way he acted in the starting gate in Arkansas.
Yeah, you don't want to be too hot-blooded. You want to be calm and relaxed in the post parade, the paddock area. But you're right. Improbable, he had a wide trip in his first race. He had a rough trip in the early stages of the Arkansas Derby. Ran second both times, and to me, another attribute he has going for him, he won the street sense here at Churchill Downs by 7.5 lengths. Loved the racetrack that day, so I think he's doing great.
He looks like Justify. Big Chestnut with that white blaze. Elliot Walden said, it's improbable to come up with an heir apparent to the Triple Crown champion. Sport is built on chasing dreams, thus the name Improbable. Tacitus is on the racetrack, and you see Bill Mott there with his watchful eye aboard the pony, one of two Kentucky Derby contenders for Bill Mott, and Tacitus has looked great all week.
Tacitus looks great all week. He'll be making his fifth start in the Kentucky Derby. I think he still has upside, and he's a very serious win contender.
Yeah, I mean, the talk has been about how Tappett's been a great sire for the Belmont, right? Hasn't won a Kentucky Derby yet, but Tacitus could give that stallion his first. And there's Omaha Beach just looking great here on the racetrack. And again, I can't emphasize enough how fast this track dries out at Churchill Downs. We had so much rain. It was sloppy. It was a mess. It's dried out. They've harrowed through it. It's being called good right now, but one of the best parts of this racetrack is how quickly it dries out.
It is. I mean, it's arguably the fastest drying out track in the country. We see Omaha Beach here on the screen. We're excited to see his first workout, but he has looked phenomenal, in my opinion, over the racetrack, has a real presence to him. Everything looks good so far with Omaha Beach.
Omaha Beach, a landing area in Normandy, northern France, used by the Allied forces in World War II, the D-Day invasion. Sire is Warfront, the same sire as this guy, War of Will. Omaha Beach, War of Will, 41-1 in the Derby Sire's future pool. I like that price if I had it going into the Derby.
Yeah, you can. Oh, it's easy to like it. Warfront was a graded stakes winner at 6 furlongs, but he's the son of Danzig. And the one thing about War of Will and Omaha Beach, they both have stamina on their damn side. I don't think the distance will be a factor. Omaha Beach is looking to War of Will is looking to rebound, but if he gets an outside pressing trip, I think the post position draw will be key because he could get that right trip up close to the pace.
Well,
Joe.
let me ask you a question. So he wins the LeCompte, he wins the Risen Star. What if he wins the Louisiana Derby the same way he won those 2 races? What would you think about War of Will's chances? Because obviously he's a forgotten horse because of what happened, and it wasn't his fault in Louisiana Derby.
Yeah, he'd have a much better chance, though. I mean, we don't see a lot of horses run poorly in that last race and bounce back, but it has happened in the past, so you can't totally discount it.
One horse that hasn't run poorly, Omaha Beach. You mentioned Warfront. When I think Warfront, I think Turf, and so did Dick Mandela. That's where Omaha Beach began his career, but once he moved over to the main track and eventually a fast main track, and he's handle slop too, he has absolutely flourished. He's become a completely different racehorse.
Completely different racehorse. Dick Mandela talked about how he had to figure it out, that he liked dirt better than the turf, and once he ran on the dirt, it took him 2 starts. He broke his maiden going by 9 lengths. He has never looked back since then. He followed that with 2 really superb wins. With spotting stakes experience to both Game Winner and Improbable, and he beat them both at Oaklawn Park.
Again, ridden by Mike Smith, at the age of 53, continues to be the regular pilot of some of the most famous horses in recent times. We mentioned Justify, Arrogate, Songbird. What about Unique Bella, West Coast, and Yada? Shared Belief, Royal Delta. Mike Smith's resume, there's none that's better in the game today. Taking a look next at By My Standards, another horse, James, that has just made an unbelievable impression. He had that 6 furlong workout the other day, just 12, 12, 12, 12, all the way around the racetrack, 112-4. Galloped out great, one of the horses whose arrow is pointing up, leading up to the Run for the Roses.
By my standards, he has impressed clockers and observers here at Churchill Downs in his last few workouts. I'll tell you, he's got the speed ratings to win it. He got a 102 speed rating last time, Joe. It wasn't on anybody's radar because he was still a maiden in mid-February until here of late. But one thing I like about By My Standards, he's got good tactical speed. Gabe Sayed says he wants to sit like 6th or 7th in the early going. I think that's a favorable spot to be in.
Brett Calhoun won his 3,000th race this past winter at Fairgrounds, as we do have an Oaks horse that is putting in a workout here. Trying to get a look at that saddle towel. And again, the track drying out probably has a lot to do with, trainers maybe thinking, well, maybe we don't want to work, but now we're going to because the racetrack's obviously in a lot better shape. It's kind of peanut buttery, James. You can still see a ton of moisture in the racetrack right now, but certainly in a lot better shape than it was before the break here.
Yeah, and in better shape even than yesterday morning as well. It's definitely dried out fast. I think it's been a little bit windy as well, so that's helped dry the surface out. And like Joe said, they harrowed it when they did it, opened it up, and it looks pretty good, even though it's still got a little moisture in it.
Mark Hasse said chocolate kisses. Oh, this is motion to motion.
Yeah.
So, okay, so not knowing who the horse was before the horse went off into the work. This is a speed horse. We saw the other day Serengeti Empress, who's another one of the likely speeds in the Oaks, with a very fast workout. We'll get the time from Kevin Kirstein, Darren Rogers, Derby Media on Twitter over the course of the next few moments. But motion to motion, that was a very controlled work. She showed speed. It was a nice work, but she certainly wasn't headstrong at all during the course of that move.
No, she wasn't. She did look good, like you said, Joe. I mean, I'm just a little bit worried, like you said, about the pace in the Kentucky Oaks. Her only wins have come in a maiden allowance race. She's still a little bit light on seasoning or stakes experience, and going to face a difficult challenge with all the other speed in the race.
Great story, though. It's trained by Tom Van Berg, the son of the legendary late Jack Van Berg. So it's nice to see Tommy with a horse in the Kentucky Oaks. Here's War of Will. James, Mark Cassidy talking to Ed DeRosa earlier about, the way this horse is trained leading up to the Kentucky Derby after that mishap in the TwinSpires.com Louisiana Derby. And I'm telling you, we've seen him train, and he's trained well, and he's looked good. But he is a presence out there, and I think he looks great this morning.
He does, and you can see the exercise rider has a stiff hold on him. If he could, he'd do a lot. He'd go faster. He's been out there taking a couple spirited gallops over the track since he got here from Keeneland, and definitely a presence, like Joe said, very, very athletic, and he walks into paddock with his head held high like he's the boss.
On the dam side of the pedigree, absolutely stamina across it. The dam is a half to Breeders' Cup Mile Winner Spinning World, but there's also a lot of other deeper turf stamina, 9 furlong, mile and a half type horses on the dam side. So I've always said, like, even when I was watching this horse develop over the course of the winter at the fairgrounds, that I thought he had the stamina to get a mile and a quarter. And what makes him dangerous, James, is the fact that he has natural speed and he should be in the race early.
Yeah, out of a Sadler's Wells mare. Sadler's Wells was the one of the great sires of Europe in recent times.
And there's our first look at Win-Win-Win, and I've been looking forward to this because this is a horse based on his past performances, some sneaky good races in defeat that I've been looking very forward to seeing on the racetrack. Not as imposing as some of the other Derby contenders, but you have to like the heart and consistency that he's displayed.
Yeah, I'm just getting a feel for it there. He's going nice and easy out there, not doing very much. But, yeah, he's going to get a work, it looks like. I think Trombetta said maybe Sunday. We'll see more there, how he's taken to the surface. But Dark Bay horse, and looks his ears are forward, looks real alert.
Mike Trombetta, over 1,700 wins, 10 graded stakes wins in his career, had the Kentucky Derby favorites in 2006, Sweet Northern Saints. Finished 7th as the lukewarm choice in a race won by the legendary Barbaro. Sweet Northern Saint came back to run second in the Preakness. Michael Trombetta, very familiar to racing fans in the Mid-Atlantic, as is his jockey, Julian Pimentel.
Yeah, Julian Pimentel gets the mount back. He was up on Win-Win-Win's first 4 starts. They put Irad Ortiz up for the Tampa Bay Derby and Bluegrass, and now he gets familiar hands back aboard for the Kentucky Derby.
Another distinction, Win-Win-Win, outside of Master Fencer, who's from Japan. The only horse in this year's Kentucky Derby not bred in the state of Kentucky. He was bred in Florida. The last time a Florida bred won the Kentucky Derby. James, tell me, who was it? Do you know?
Florida bred?
Last Florida bred to win the Derby.
It wasn't always dreaming.
Silver Charm, 1997.
Wow, that's a long ways back.
Yeah, they've only won the Kentucky Derby 6 times, Florida breds, but second most behind Kentucky breds, who are obviously overwhelming. It is the Bluegrass States. It is the land of the horse. So there you see Win-Win-Win on the racetrack. And again, he ran well in the Tampa Bay Derby behind Tacitus, who had that great trip up the rail. That was a race where people were thinking, is this a 2-turn horse? I think he won the Pasco in track record time, stakes record time, ran great that day, but you're still a little bit skeptical. The way he ran in the Bluegrass to close and get up for second, despite that trouble over that speed favoring racetrack, and we heard Mark Cassidy talk about how speed favoring it was over Bluegrass Day, and this horse got up for second behind Vacoma. I think that's a real sneaky good race for him.
Yeah, Win-Win-Win promises to be running late, no doubt about that. I will say this, a little concern, it's sort of with Country House about the start, where he's got trouble lines at the break, awkward start, awkward break, step slow. So you got to get out of the gate in a 20-horse field. And speaking of Country House, Joe, there he is on the track.
And 1 of 2 for Bill Mott. Real quickly, we do have the workout times on Motion to Motion for Tom Van Berg. 12-1 24-3, 49-4, galloping out 103 flat over a racetrack rated as good. So again, motion emotion at Kentucky Oaks Worker this morning. In James Country House, the lesser of the two, at least on paper, Bill Mott trainees in this year's Kentucky Derby. We do have a rider for him now that has been assigned in Flavian Pratt, who I think is a great fit.
Oh, yeah, it's a great fit. Flavian Pratt, one of the leading riders in Southern California. He came to Churchill Downs last year on Derby Week and won some undercard stakes on Friday and Saturday, I believe, and definitely on Saturday. And so he knows his way around Churchill Downs. He also rode Paradise Woods, who was a Kentucky Oaks favorite 2 years ago. So I think it's a good choice. He'll try to get him out of the gate and get him settled to the back of the pack and come running late aboard Country House for Bill Mott.
Yeah, the French connection, Flavian Pratt, Country House, Master Fencer, Julien Le Peru, and then Florent Giroux with the mount on Roadster for Bob Baffert. We're going to actually talk to Florent tomorrow morning on the Workout Show alongside his agent, Doug Bradar, and they've made a huge splash over the course of the last several years after starting Florent's career together in Chicago. They've become one of the top jockey agent combinations in the country, and it'll be interesting to see what went into them gaining them out on Roadster for Baffert.
Yeah, but Florent Giroux was a rider of Kentucky Derby third gun runner and Horse of the Year in 2017.
There's Tacitus, and again, we've talked about it, James, to the point where it's almost like a broken record. Doesn't matter what this horse does, if it's a serious workout, if it's a gallop or a jog, he just seems to float over this racetrack.
He really does, and look at his head, Joe. He's just like, he's all business looking out there, and, not too eager, not wanting to do too much.
His ears are up, his ears are up.
His ears are up. Yeah, I mean, I saw him come by yesterday. I thought he looked tremendous. You don't see a lot of like two-lap gallops around there, but he was going at a pretty good clip, I thought, both times around, and like you said, just floats over the surface.
So we've had yourself, Ed DeRosa, Scott Shapiro, Brandon Staubel, who's actually a clocker, is going to be joining us soon on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show. We'll get to hear some of his unique insight into the way these horses are training, and looking very forward to that.
Yeah, very forward to it. I mean, a horse like Tacitus, to me, the main question is trip. I think he's good enough to win the Derby if he gets the right trip.
All right, and he certainly couldn't be coming into the race any better for Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott, who also has a Country House looking for his first Kentucky Derby win. He's only had 6 tries, James. We talk about Bill Mott has never won the Derby. Dick Mandela has never won the Derby. Even Steve Asmussen has never won the Derby. But it's the hardest race to win for so many different reasons. Most importantly and most significantly, there's 20 horses in the race. Only one trainer can win.
Only one trainer can win. And plus, a trainer like Bill Mott, he used to train a lot more turf horses. Even, guys like Richard Mandela, he's more known for training older horses, turf horses. Don't get a lot of horses that look like they'll be precocious types and be on the Kentucky Derby trail. But Juddmonte Farms sent this homebred Tacitus to him, and he's making the most of it. Earlier this year, he had 3 horses on the Kentucky Derby trail, and he wound up with 2 in there, Bill Mott did.
Yeah, some of those turf horses, Asina, Paradise Creek, Agena, also Theatrical. Closed Hatches was a good dirt horse, and
right.
She's the mother of Tacitus.
Yeah, he does a great job with fillies too, Royal Delta. Yeah, so, and Closed Hatches, multiple Grade 1 winner, a mile and an eighth. Tappet, 3-time winning sire of the mile and a half Belmont. All kinds of pedigree for a route like longer distance of ground for Tacitus. So we know that the distance won't be any issue. You can just see him. He's built to run long distances.
Bill Mott, the youngest trainer to be inducted into racing's Hall of Fame way back in 1998. James, at the age of 45, he's won 10 Breeders' Cup races, 3 Eclipse Awards. When you think of horse trainer, horse man, Bill Mott's certainly at the top of the list.
Certainly one of the top of the list. It seems like he's even older than that, Joe. He's been around so long. He's done a great job.
Earlier on the show, Ed DeRosa talked to Brian Hernandez, the pilot of a Restless Rider for the Oaks, and this guy, hopefully for them, potentially, he's on the outside looking in right now, needs a couple of defections. Talking about Signalman, James, and Signalman looked really good in that workout the other day against Restless Rider. He put her away while not being asked, which I thought was impressive. And he's making a nice appearance on the racetrack as well. Ed alluding to the fact that Kenny McPeak, very bullish on Twitter, not afraid to speak his mind, and he likes the way Signalman is doing.
Yeah, he's very impressive looking colt. He ran third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Churchill, won the Kentucky Jockey Club. We know he likes the track. Running him at Gulfstream in the Fountain of Youth didn't work out well. I know if Kenny had it all over to do again, he may have gone somewhere else for that first race back this year.
Yeah, I'm telling you, right? 38 points, he doesn't get in. I mean, Kenny's thinking, I get 38 points. He ran third in the Bluegrass, right?
That's easily been enough in past years. The highest total for the last horse in the field was 32 coming into this year. Motom in 2016. Last year, Instilled Regard got in with 29 points. So to be sitting there with 38 or even 40 like Bodie Express, I think nobody really expected the total would be that high coming into 2019.
Well, James, you and I are minor stakeholders in the horse ownership game. Horse like Signalman shows you that a Derby horse can come from anywhere. Marginal breeding, $5,000 stallion general quarters, $32,000 purchase, no siblings of quality to speak of. The dam was unraced with an average family, but this horse obviously is a tremendous individual, has earned his right into the Kentucky Derby, and has far exceeded any expectations the Connections may have had when they bought him.
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair point. Kenny McPeak, he's had other runners as well in the Kentucky Derby. Noble Promise, that was a bargain purchase by a partnership. He got into the partnership game years ago. He does a great job, not buying at the top end, buying good horses for value prices.
Lots of good stuff on the racetrack, and again, this racetrack at Churchill Downs just drying out amazingly well. We were sloppy when the show started. We are good now, and there's still more training this morning. I wouldn't be surprised to see this racetrack fast as we move forward. One of the horses that we did see work was Motion to Motion for Tom Vanberg. Let's take a look at her on the racetrack right now. Took us a little bit of time to identify her. This is my first opportunity to actually see her here at Churchill Downs, but all things considered, James, this is a pretty nice move for a horse that is expected to show speed very well within herself.
Yeah, very well within herself. I'm not exactly sure what their tactics will be, Joe, because like you said, her last 4 races, not only has she shown speed, but she's been clear early on. So she likes to come winging it from the starting gate.
Lots of activity on the backstretch this morning. Horses leaving the main gap, on and off at the Lucas Gap as well. Ed DeRosa is right there amongst the action, amongst the trainers, amongst the buzz. Let's send it back to Ed for some additional commentary. Ed?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And as we see Motion to Motion wrapping up her work, this is about the time I got to look at her as she winds her way down to the backside. And I was hearing you guys on your earpiece, and I heard that you weren't sure who the worker was until they picked up on her. And when she came by galloping out, I said, well, this horse has to be coming out of a work. And sure enough, it was Motion to Motion. Looked really fluid. And just overall, have to be pleased. I would think the horsemen have to be pleased with what they saw on the racetrack from their horses today. Excellent job by the crew to get this track ready after a lot of rain. So super pleased with anyone out on the track, I would think. Very eager to see the notes from Kevin Kirstein's team as to what the horsemen thought. And of course, this weekend going to get a lot of action with actual published works for Derby horses. But overall back here, guys, it's a great scene, pretty loose, a lot of fun. I mentioned earlier Shug McGahee and Dwayne Lucas were shooting the breeze. Danny Pites and Chad Brown were talking out here during the workout stage. Mark Casse walked by. It's been a lot of fun this week, and really looking forward to getting down to brass tacks this weekend with some published works.
Yeah, thanks. That is crazy. It's only 1 week till the Oaks, 8 days till the Kentucky Derby. And I got a report from Kevin Kirstein that Leora, most recently second in the Fairgrounds Oaks, she's going to work at 9 o'clock this morning. So trainers calling audibles. The racetrack's going to be in a little bit better shape even then, a little bit more than an hour from now. So Wayne Catalano, who has a way with the ladies, Leora, she's going to work at 9. As you know, the trainers got to be willing to call audibles in these situations.
They do, and they definitely Wayne Catalano. I bet he would have been willing to wait till tomorrow, but with the track drying out, like you said, it makes sense. It might be rated good now. Probably by 9 o'clock it'll be rated fast.
Now, not all the workouts are happening here. Horses are still trickling in. We've got some footage of a couple of workouts for Kentucky Derby contenders from New York. We're going to start with High Call here, James.
High Call. I thought this was a good 5-furlong move. It's his second workout since the Wood Memorial. Kieran McLaughlin, who finished second in the Kentucky Derby with a 74-1 closing argument in 2005, said this will be his final work. He'll get in early next week. He'll be running late, Joe. He ran third in the Wood Memorial last time, won the Gotham in a one-turn mile. Distance a little bit of concern, but does bring improving form into the Kentucky Derby.
Owner Shadwell Stable, jockey Rajiv Mirage. This one is a half to $400,000 sprinter Tackaful, but a deep closer in two-turn races. I think he's sneaky good. I'm going to be using him on my tickets. A horse that we kind of have differing opinions on here on the set. I'm not sure what you think of Tax. I know Ed DeRosa, I believe, has him in his top 5. This is a former claimer. He debuted for $30,000. He ran second, stepped up to maiden claiming 50. He won, claimed out of that race by Danny Gargan, who will be starting a horse in the Kentucky Derby for the first time. Gave Tacitus all he could handle last time out in the Wood Memorial, but got a really good setup, James.
Got a good setup, Joe, but he definitely puts himself – that was a pretty solid pace that day, and he was like rating only about 4.5 lengths off that first opening quarter mile. Has good tactical speed. That's one thing I like about him, and he's fast. 3 consecutive triple-digit numbers. This is his first workout since the Wood Memorial, and he went fast yesterday morning, 47 and change. Danny Gargan, he's a good horseman a lot of people don't know about, and he could make it at least make his presence known, Tax in the Kentucky Derby.
When I told you that Ed had Tax in his top 5, you looked at me like I was an alien. We're going to prove it. I'm going to send it out to Ed. We're going to look at your top 5 Kentucky Derby horses, Ed.
Yeah, it's true. I do have him in my top 5. I believe I have him number 4. Does that mean I think he's the 4th most likely winner of the race? No. Do I think he's one of the best bets in the race at 30-1? Absolutely. As James said, 3 triple-digit Brisnet speed ratings. No other horse in the field has done that. How can I not play a horse that the home team says is one of the fastest in the race at 30-1? So Tax number 4, by my standards, another long shot on top. We know what he's been doing here, training well. Everyone's in love with him. I thought he looked spectacular in the Louisiana Derby. And then the logicals I like most, as we saw in 2 and 3, are Improbable and Tacitus. But for me, this looks like a great betting race, because if I'm right in those 1 and 4 spots at 20+1, I'm going to get paid, guys.
Yeah, very, very, very good point, Ed, and goes to show you how wide open this year's Kentucky Derby is. We saw Ed's top 5. I'm going to take a look at your top 5. Then I'm going to take a look at my top 5, and these top 5s are pretty different.
Yeah, they are pretty different, Joe. My take on my top 5 here on the screen, Omaha Beach and Tacitus are a solid 1-2 for me. Not 100%. I could flip-flop them, but right now this is the way I'm leaning. 3, 4, and 5. I like Game Winner. I like Improbable. I like by my standards, but they are far from set in stone. I'm definitely going to continue to watch how these horses prepare. Excited to see all 20 horses on the grounds in the coming days, and it could have a little bit of variation 3 through 5 for me.
While I lost the battle with the TV crew, I asked them to put an asterisk on my top 5 list, because mine is certainly subject to change, because my number 1 hasn't been at Churchill yet. Maximum Security, I think he's flying under the radar, A, because he debuted for $16,000, B, because he got loose and lonely on the lead in the Florida Derby. A lot of people don't think that win was for real. And C, he's by New Year's Day, who's a sire that doesn't roll off your tongue when you're talking about the greatest stallions in the game right now. He wasn't even good enough to stay here. They shipped him off to Brazil, but Maximum Security, number 1 for me. The other 4 are kind of obvious at this point, although War of Will, if you look at KentuckyDerby.com, is moving up my list. And again, I think this list can potentially change day to day, James.
Yeah, for sure. Well, definitely Maximum Security, seeing him here on the track, I think will be key for you. He's had 2 really slow works since the Florida Derby. Not sure what Jason Service is doing there, but he's one I can't wait to see, because I'm a little skeptical of his chances, Joe.
All right, I got some more social media questions here. We're going to try to get to a couple of these. James, which Derby prep do you feel was the strongest this year? This one is being asked by Max on Facebook.
I thought the Arkansas Derby was the strongest. It's going to produce 4 runners in the Kentucky Derby, including Omaha Beach and the possible favorite. Now, the Santa Anita Derby didn't have the depth, but when you have Roadster and Game Winner, those are 2 top-notch quality colts, so that would come second for me. I'd rated Arkansas Derby, Santa Anita Derby 1-2.
Yeah, Code of Honor was third in the Florida Derby. Maximum Security was the winner. The maiden Bodie Express was second in that race. He's still on the outside looking in. But I think it's really tough to say what the toughest prep was until after the Derby is run. But you have to have some thoughts going into it because that's kind of what helps formulate your opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And when you have four horses in the Kentucky Derby field for one race, at least the race had some depth. Like you said, the quality will be determined on May 4th. But, that was a pretty solid prep. And only 3 weeks out from the Kentucky Derby. The Arkansas Derby was the last of the 7.
All right, we're getting close to wrapping up the morning work show. Time for some final thoughts. We're going to start with Ed DeRose on the backstretch. Ed?
Real quick, the Wood Memorial's my key race. 2 of my top 4 come from it, so I'm betting that race heavily in the Derby. As for what we saw today, as I said, great to see the track dry out so well. Horses look happy. Horsemen look happy with them. But we're going to have to get that swivel out from Monday, Joe, when we had 4 published works. I expect as much action, if not more, tomorrow, Saturday. So get the coffee ready and join us at 7 a.m. Eastern because it's going to be action-packed on the backside.
Continues to get more and more action-packed as we move forward. A lot of horses yet to arrive, both for the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. We're going to get to see a lot of them over the course of the next couple of days. And Ed said this weekend's going to be huge for final workouts because you have to get them in. You don't want to work too close to the Oaks or the Derby.
That's right, and it looks like we're going to have a great window of good weather on Friday and Saturday mornings, maybe even Sunday morning for the final works. And, yeah, I mean, this morning we were all really excited to see Omaha Beach work. We didn't go out there today, and we just galloped around. So tomorrow morning, that's the highlight for me. I can't wait to see Omaha Beach out there and turning in his final breeze for the Kentucky Derby.
All right, another jam-packed hour here on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show. We'd like to remind everybody that you can get your Kentucky Derby programs online. If you're not coming here to Louisville and you want to get them in advance, they're going to make it to your doorstep in time for Kentucky Derby Day, whether you're a fan, a party host, a horse player, a memorabilia collector, or in many cases, all of the above. KentuckyDerbyParty.com is the place to order programs and a whole lot more good stuff to get you prepared for this year's run for the Roses. That's going to wrap it up for the Kentucky Derby Work Show for today. Opening night tomorrow. It's Downs After Dark. The card's been drawn. Morning workout show is going to kick things off, though, at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Lots of activity here at Churchill Downs as the road to the Kentucky Derby continues. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, everybody.